Welcome back to Sea Place. Today we'll be reading Beetle Boy by M.G. Leonard. Chapter 15 The Sewer Solution. Dark's feet thumped the pavement as he ran. Dexter flew beside him. Virginia's long legs easily matched Dark's pace for pace, but eventually she called out, "Slow down, we got to tell the police." Dark's gasped. She got Dark's. Dark's, stop, Virginia ordered, coming to a halt. He ran on for a few steps, then squatted to catch his breath. You can't leave Bertolt behind, Virginia added. What? He was hiding behind the blue van. Look, he's trying to catch us up. There's no time. What we need to do is think through before we do anything crazy. How do we know the police will help us? They haven't so far. She's got him in a cell, Darker said angrily. We've got to get him out of there. You're bleeding, Virginia leaned over him to look. All down the back of your neck. Doesn't matter, Darkest checked. Baxter was still flying overhead. I'm fine. We need to rescue Dad. Darkest, there's a massive splinter in your neck. Virginia put a hand on his shoulder. Without warning, whipped the shard of wood out. Ah! He cried out, and his neck began to bleed in earnest. You're hurt, Bertold wheezed, finally catching up and sinking to the ground beside Darkest. It mustn't have been a splinter from the lift. Darkest put his hand up to his neck. Lucretia Cutter shot something at me. She missed, but it smashed into the wood behind me. She shot at you? Said Bertolt, aghast, as Newton zoomed up out of his head, flickering angrily. She didn't have a gun. Darkest thought about what had happened in Towering Heights. She was pointing one of her walking sticks at me. Are you serious? Virginia said. Darkest looked at the blood on his hand. She's a monster, and she's got Dad locked in a cell underground. He told them about the library and Novak, about how she took him through the secret passage to the two-way mirror, about the photograph of his father on Lucretia Carter's desk, about how brave Novak has been when they got caught, and how she'd help him escape back to the lift, about finding the room of angry insects with the yellow ladybirds, and then about how he'd learned his father's voice. You saw your dad? Bertolt was visibly upset by what he was hearing. I didn't see him, Darker said quietly. I heard him. I called out, and he heard me. He swallowed. He called out my name, and then that stinking butler dragged me backwards through a door and hit me over the head. That stinking butler may have saved your life, Virginia pointed out. What about the Beatles? Bertolt asked. Why does she want them? I still don't know, Darkest admitted. She said something about them belonging to her and wanting them back. She wants to keep them secret. She said she wasn't ready yet. But I don't know what that means. And then she said she wouldn't let anyone stop her. Darkest paused. I don't know what's going on, but I think Dad may have been trying to stop Lucretia Cutter from doing whatever is that she planning to do. But what we do know is that she's coming for the Beatles tomorrow morning, Virginia added. Tomorrow? Bertolt squeezed. Sweet. That's not much time, Vegeta nodded. I know, this is bad, he blinked. This is very bad. There's something else. A horrifying image flashed into Dark's mind of a swirling skirt and a giant serrated claw. He shuddered. The Credia cutter. He stopped, not knowing how to put into words that what he'd seen. After she heard Novak, she turned to leave, and her skirt sort of lifted up. It looked like, I think I saw a claw. A claw? Berto looked confused as part of her dress. Vegeta asked. No, I mean she had a big black claw, like Baxter's. It was where her foot should be. She was standing on it like it was her leg. Like she had the legs of a beetle, but human-sized. Douglas heard himself saying the words and knew it sounded crazy. Are you sure? Vegeta asked. Yes, I'm sure. You might. Could I be playing tricks on you? 'Cause you were scared. Maybe it was a boot, Bertolt suggested. A designer boot. Douglas shook his head. I know what I saw. He looked back at towering height. She's a monster, he said again. Bertolt looked at Vegeta. What are we going to do? Ducks, we have to move the Beatles tonight, Vegeta said. Or they'll all be dead in the morning. I... The sound of his dad calling out his name was ringing in Dark's ears. I've got to get Dad out of there. To move the Beatles means moving the cups. Bertolt said, all their babies, their eggs and larvae are inside. They won't leave without them. His face betrayed how impossible he thought the task was. Even if we could move the Beatles in Beetle Mountain in one night, where would we put it? Darkness felt all the energy in his body drain away. His t-shirt was stuck to the back with sweat and blood. He felt weak, and his hands were shaking. I don't know what to do, he admitted, covering his face with his hands. Baxter dropped down, leaning on Dark's fingertips, nuzzling the side of his horn against his forehead. Bertolt patted his shoulder. It's okay. Things are better than they were this morning. How? Well, this morning you didn't know where your dad was, and we had no idea when the Beatles would be attacked. He's right, Vegeta nodded. Now we know just how stuffed we are. Bertolt scowled at Vegeta. The main thing is that your dad is alive. He mimmed at Vegeta to say something nice. Vegeta mimmed back that she didn't know what to say. We need a plan. Darkus tapped his hands against his temples as he thought. Your uncle will know what to do about your dad. We should go and find him, Vegeta said. But the Beatles, they're down to us. We've got to save them. We made an oath. Darkus looked down at Baxter, now on the palm of his hand. If the Credia cutter says they're hers, Bertolt said, thinking out loud, then perhaps she bought them, though through a special insert dealer. But then surely they'd have arrived dead, with pins in. Vegeta said, the real question is, why does she want to keep them a secret? Do you think she knows about their special abilities? Bertolt looked at Darkus. Darkus nodded. I think that's why she wants them. And it's their abilities she wants to keep a secret. Because she's not ready yet. Vegeta stroked her chin. This may sound crazy, but if the Beatles belong to her, is it impossible? Is it possible? She's making Beatles with superpowers. You said she had a room full of angry Beatles in there. In a laboratory. How on earth do you make a super beetle? Bertolt scoffed. Darkus blinked down at Baxter, thinking about his statues of the men, the beetle and the double helix that were in Lucretia Cutter's white room. He remembered something Uncle Max had said. She's experimenting with DNA. DNA, Virginia frowned. It's the genetic code that makes up every living creature, Bertolt explained. I know what DNA is, Virginia retorted. Uncle Max said that when Lucretia Cutter knew that she was a geneticist. Bertolt held his hand out for Newton to lean. He cupped his glowing body to make a lantern. Do you think our beetles are clever enough to have escaped from her laboratory? I don't know, Darkus shrugged. Maybe, but why would Lucretia Carter want to make super beetles? Bertolt shook his head, unable to think of an answer. Who cares? She's got your dad. And if he was trying to stop her from doing something, then anything we can do to put a spanner in the works has got to count for something, right? Virginia reasoned. Let's fight her every step of the way. That's it. Darkus looked up, his eye bright with an idea. Is it? Bertolt smiled. Hopefully, tomorrow when Lucretia Cutter is collecting her beetles, he lifted his hand holding Baxter. I'll rescue Dad from towering heights. You're going to sacrifice the beetles? Virginia looked shocked. No, of course not. Darkus got to his feet and straightened his shoulders. We're only just beginning to learn what the beetles can do. He thought about the angry beetles in towering heights and held Baxter out in front of him. I think we should convince the beetles in the mountains to stand their ground to fight. What do you reckon, Baxter? The rhinoceros beetle bowed his horn, and Darkus felt a thrill of defiance in his chest. Good. And if I'm right, when Lucretia Cutter arrives, there will be a beetle army waiting for her, and that's the last thing she'll be expecting. He placed Baxter on his shoulder. We'll show her that she can't just take what she wants. Regina cocked her head. Okay, this is beginning to sound good. I'm glad you think so, because you're going to have to lead the Beatles on. Me? Regina looked delighted. Bring it on. Back at Uncle Mac's Darkus left Regina and Bertolt in the street whilst he went upstairs to talk to his uncle. But he returned, shaking his head. That's weird. There's no one home. The radio's on and the kitchen window's open, but there's no one there. Maybe he popped out to the shops, Bertolt suggested. Go to base camp, Regina said. Let's go to base camp, Regina said. We've got planning to do, and we can use the telescope to see when your uncle gets back. Darkus nodded, and because the coast was clear and they knew Pickering and Humphrey were out, they went in through the Emporium shop door. As they were crossing the shop floor, Regina suddenly stopped dead, and Bertolt and Darkus stumbled into her back. I'm a genius, she said, her eyes wide with excitement. I've just had a brilliant idea. Follow me. Moments later, they found themselves outside the toilet, looking at the manhole cover Virginia had seen the first time she'd explored the shop. What if we moved the beetles below the city to the sewers? She said. No one would ever know that they were there. Let's try and lift Darkus. Let's try and lift it. Darkus bent down and grabbed one of the handles. The three of them heaved the heavy circle of metal to one side. The faint breath of sewage wafted out of the yawning black hole, making Bertolt's noise wrinkle. Virginia pulled a keying torch from her pocket. Look, there's a ladder in the wall. She put the torch between her teeth and stepped to the embedded iron rungs. I'm going down. Darkus dangled his legs to the hole until there was room for him on the ladder. The shaft of light from above showed him the shadowy outlines of a carven cavernous brick chamber. The air was damp with the unsavory tang of ammonia and slurry clay. A perpetual dripping sound accompanied his descent, and when he reached the ground he saw shallow puddles everywhere. "What do you think?" Darkus asked as he stepped off the ladder, but Baxter flew off to take a look around. Virginia was already exploring a man-sized archway on the other side of the room. Darkus set out across the floor to join her. "Wait for me!" Bertolt called anxiously from the top of the ladder. Newton rose out of Bertolt's hair and lit up the rungs for him. "Thank you, Newton," Bertolt said, steadying his shaking hands and smiling at the firefly. Through the archway was a giant tunnel the height of 5 men. Its brick walls covered in lichen and limescale. Oozing along the middle of the floor was a pea-green stream. In the distance, Darkus could hear the thunderous rumble of falling water. "This place is cool," he said. "It's perfect," Virginia said proudly. "I wonder if there's a room like this below each shop." She peered across the tunnel to a similar archway opposite. "Baxter seems to like it." Darkus pointed to Rhinoceros Beetle, who left his perch on his shoulder and was climbing the tunnel wall. "Beetles don't mind a bit of sewage, do they?" Virginia shone the torch back into the chamber below the ladder. Bertolt was gingerly picking his way across the floor. "Some beetles love sewage," Darkus grinned, thinking of the dung beetles. "But there's no sewage in the chamber, just puddles of water. It's perfect. No one will know Beetle Mountain is here," Virginia said. "Leave that to the beetles," Darkus replied, thinking back to how Baxter had pushed his mug up against the wall of his chair. "They might be small, but they're strong, and there's loads of them. Anyone who's seen Beetle Mountain will know it can't just vanish," Virginia pointed out. "How do we stop Humphrey and Pickering from going to look for it?" "That's a good point," Darkus scratched his head. "The Credier Cutter offering them a lot of money. They aren't going to be happy when the beetles suddenly disappear." "Actually," Bertolt coughed, "I may have a solution." Virginia and Darkus looked at him. "The other day I read that there are beetles that can turn fur into sawdust. Someone's been doing their homework and can destroy giant trees or eat entire crops overnight," Bertolt continued. "So?" Darkus asked. "Well, I was thinking we could employ those talents to make this building a bit, unsafe." He blinked. "How unsafe?" Darkus asked. "Definitely too unsafe for Humphrey and Pickering to be able to live in it anymore." Virginia whistled. "Tell us more." "If a bit of Humphrey's bedroom floor were to, cave in, say, then everyone would assume the mugs had got smashed to pieces and the beetles had scattered." Darkus laughed. "Well, that sounds like the beginning of a plan." And the next chapter is chapter 16, The Rat Trap, on page 217. But that was all for today. Bye. Make sure to comment down below, subscribe, and hit the like button. Bye.